Hello, hello. This is Pablo Arias with International Relocation Partner, and this is the Expat Community Podcast. The Expat Community Podcast is one of the initiatives the expat community has. We are building this platform for expats who are looking to move to places like Costa Rica, Panama, Mexico, and of course Portugal. Today we're gonna be talking about Portugal for a little bit with my friend Raquel Batista. She is the founder and owner of LightHouse Consulting. And we're going to talk about a little bit about what happened with the Golden Visa, what are our new options. We need a little bit of an update. But what we are trying to do here is we're trying to build all of these resources for you guys to come and join us. We have a website full of information. We are updating local news translated into English. We are also doing and this is in Spanish because we cover so many countries that speak Spanish. We're also offering free Spanish classes on Wednesdays, depending on the location you are in. So that's a few of the things we're trying to build: networking events, meetups, and of course, since we're talking about Portugal, I want to ask Raquel if she's got somebody that can teach us Portuguese, because that's one of the languages that we also wanted to cover. Raquel, can you please briefly introduce yourself a little bit so we can get this conversation going? And then I have to ask you, what has happened with this, one of the most popular visas of all times to have your second residency, the Golden Visa in Portugal. What has happened with this Golden Visa? Is it over now? Do we have no options now for Portugal to get a residency, or do we have other alternatives?
Hi, Pablo. Thank you so much for having me here. It's a great pleasure. I have with me Alice, my assistant. She's my youngest daughter, and she has to be a part. This is real life. I wanted to also showcase this because this should be an example for other mompreneurs, as we call them, that we
Love
sometimes
it.
have to mingle real life with our profession, and this is it. This is real life right here. So I founded Lighthouse Consulting about a year and a half ago, after over 20 years in the banking industry as a legal consultant, and mostly because my middle daughter is in an international school, and so I started to have a lot of expat friends. And so what they did was, actually they were the ones who told me, you should create a company to help expats because of your legal background and your banking experience and all of that. You should help expats mainly in the business sector of things. And that's what I've been doing so far for the last year and a half. It's been a wild ride. It's been crazy fun. I've learned a lot, not only about the business, a lot about myself, my abilities. I owned a construction company 2 years before, but this is a whole different ballgame. And so I've learned a lot. It's been a lot of fun, and I've been growing steadily and mostly through word of mouth, which is amazing. And so here we are, Pablo, and thanks to people like you as well, who have faith in me and faith in my work. And I have to thank you so much for these opportunities. This is visibility, and this is an opportunity to spread the word and to also help other people, which is one of the reasons why I created Lighthouse Consulting, was to help people navigate the intricacies of being here in Portugal. So, Golden Visa. This is this was very hard to believe that this was happening, to be honest, because Golden Visa was one of the best. Golden Visa plus the NHR, which is the non-habitual resident regime, tax regime, which is also coming to an end, by the way, which I would also like to say something about this. The Golden Visa had an alteration 2 years ago, because when it first started, the Golden Visa, you just had to buy property, and you could buy property in Cascais, in Lisbon, so in the main urban areas in Portugal, and you could get a residency. And now And then 2 years later, what they did was they limited the areas where you could buy a house, because politically it started to come out that the prices of properties were going up because of the golden visa, which of course we know through the numbers that is not so. And I think I've posted something
Yeah, I
about two
saw it.
weeks ago about that. So when you look at the numbers, that's not true, but it's politics, and you know how that is. And so what they did was limit the regions where you could buy a house to have a visa, residency visa here. So mainly off of the main cities, but otherwise everything you could buy property. Now, the golden visa itself, it hasn't ended, but it has changed so much, because now with the recent changes in law, you can't have a golden visa just by buying property, residential property. And that was, one of the great advantages of the golden visa is that you only have to stay here 7 days a year. So
Okay.
essentially, you could have a residency in the European community only with 7 days a year, which it's almost like you come here for a vacation and you have a residency, right?
Yeah.
So the golden visa itself, it hasn't ended, but it's very limited. Now, for instance, you can have a golden visa if you create a company and you create 10 jobs in that company. You can have a golden visa if you create a foundation and you pay 250,000 euros for that foundation for cultural activities. You can have a golden visa by buying shares in investment funds. So those are still available. Those haven't ended, but
Mhm.
of course the most sexy golden visas were the residential property golden visas, where you could buy property and you could get automatically residency. Those have ended, unfortunately. Now, if you look at the numbers, Pablo, in truth, there's a very, very small percentage of foreign people buying property in the grand scheme of things. If you look at all the operations, buy and sales for the last year, and especially 2022, the truth is like 4% of those transactions were with European Union citizens, which means it wasn't golden visa, because the European Union citizens do not need the golden visa, and around 2% were operations with outside of the European Union people, so foreigners. So when you think about this, it's not possible that it was that 1% or 2% raising the housing prices. Okay, it is not possible. And in
Yeah.
my experience, in my partners with the real estate, we see that over 85% of our clients, buyers and sellers, are Portuguese. Okay, and I have a number of partners in the luxury real estate area. And you could think that Portuguese were the sellers, but they're not only the sellers, they're also the buyers. Okay, the majority of the operations of buy and sale of properties in Portugal are made by Portuguese people. So don't tell me that is the golden visa that is inflating property prices in Portugal, when there's such a small fraction of operations made by people because of the golden visa. You know.
Okay. Now, let me ask you, what are options? Do you have any other option now? So my understanding is, and this is what I saw, is my understanding is there is still visas out there for people who wants to move to Portugal and do business in Portugal if they choose to do that. So if it's not the traditional golden visa, and if real estate is out of the table,
Yes.
what other options do you see are available?
There are still the visas that were available outside the golden visa are still available. So we have the entrepreneur visa, for instance, where you can create a company and you can have a residency. You have what's called it used to be called like the pensioners visa, which is There's the D2, there's the D7, which is a visa that allows for people that are retired to come here or that live off of capital earnings, for instance, that have you can imagine that someone has
Mhm.
property that's rented and you have an income from that. So as long as you have passive income, you can come to Portugal, and as long as you prove that passive income, of course, enough for you to live here,
All
you
right.
could have a visa. You could have a visa for entrepreneurship. You can have a visa at the visa for I now I'm forgetting the name. The people that work in IT that
Mhm.
go from one place to the other. I can never remember that. What is that? The
So,
digital nomad visa. Exactly. Thank you. The digital nomad visa. So people that go around the work and that can work from anywhere. There's a visa here in Portugal because what Portugal wants is highly sought after professions and professionals. So IT engineers, all of that. Believe me, there will always be visas for that kind of professions here in Portugal. Okay, so those are still available. What is not available is the golden visa, which was granted a very specific form of visa because it was a very expensive visa because you had to buy half a million euro property to have a golden visa. So it wasn't available for everyone. Not everybody has half a million euros to
mhm.
buy property in Portugal. There were certain regions in Portugal where you could have 20% discount. So the interior areas, the low density areas would have 20% discount on the golden visa, but still 400,000 euros. Not everybody has 400,000 euros to invest in property here in Portugal. So the golden visa was a very specific visa, more targeted
It's a lot
to.
investment. So
That's a
okay.
lot. That's a lot. So it wasn't on the table for a lot of people, but it was on the table for investors, for people that just wanted a way into the European Union and that didn't necessarily want to become a resident in Portugal in the sense of staying a lot of days in the country per year.
Mhm.
So people there are high net worth individuals that have several homes around the world, don't necessarily want to spend a lot of, even live permanently here in Portugal, but that they could have an opening into the European Union with the golden visa in Portugal just by buying a property. So there are other visas still available, but and the golden visa is still available on what we said. So investment funds, opening a company and creating 10 jobs. So there are still specific golden visas available, but not the one that it's easier because it's just buy property.
Yeah. So I guess the big deal with the golden visa was is a $500,000. It may seem like a lot of money for a lot of people, but when you go to the Netherlands or when you go to Italy or other, it's like 1 million euros, 1.5,
Oh
5
yeah,
million investments where some of these countries are 10 times more of an investment. So
yeah.
Portugal, 500,000, all right. There are other countries out there that
It
are
was
charging
relatively
who
cheap.
want to invest $5 million. I mean 5 million
Yeah,
euros. So
yeah,
that's
yeah. So it was relatively cheap.
yeah, it's so it's good that we still have options. I don't think people are gonna stop moving to Portugal because of it. Because of it, people will still make investments and will still see other type of people, retirees or pensionados or
Yes.
rentistas. We call it in Costa Rica rentistas or in
Yeah.
other countries rentistas. So there are other options, and it's always a good idea if you have means and if you're planning for your retirement. Maybe you are 20 years thinking in 20 years in the future, but it's always a good idea to have a second residency, a second passport, because nowadays you don't know what's going to happen. You saw the pandemic, people couldn't move
Yeah.
sometimes, so just having another passport is a great idea. And if you
And
have
Pablo,
questions about how to go about getting your residency or opening a business or all things legal in
yeah.
Portugal, I know that can help. Her
Yes.
website is on the screen. And to close this up, Raquel, please say bye. And if you have anything to close, anything else to close, we'll be
I
happy
would like
to.
just to make a quick remark, Pablo, but this is important. We have also the NHR, which is the non-habitual resident tax regime, which is a very beneficial tax regime. And it's going to end in 2024. That's what the government is saying. So if you are thinking about coming to Portugal, hurry up. Please hurry up because you won't have a lot of time to apply the NHR. You
The
have until the
internet.
end of the year. So hurry up and come.
I'm sorry, can you rephrase that again?
Yes, we have the NHR, which is the non-habitual resident tax regime, which is a very, very beneficial tax regime, only until the end of this year. So if you are thinking about even contemplating about moving to Portugal, hurry up, because if you do that until the end of the year, you're still eligible for a fantastic tax regime, which is most incomes are exempt. At the most, you will pay 20% tax.
All
Compare
right.
that to the 48% tax that the Portuguese pay on personal income. So, if you're just contemplating on coming to Portugal, come first, ask questions later. Because if you're eligible for the NHR, it's going to be massive savings in terms of tax, and it will be over by 2024.
All right. So that's super important news. So if
Yes.
there's anybody who's looking to relocate to Portugal, and if Portugal is in your radar, please get yourself informed. Talk to Raquel.
Yeah. Hurry. Well, Pablo's frozen now, I think. But hey, if anybody's listening there, the message is surround yourself with good professionals. My contacts are on the website. Check them out and be sure. Pablo, you're back. I lost you there for a while.
Yeah,
Okay. Thank you so much, Pablo.
bye bye. Time is up. Internet is kind of like not doing very well, but thank you so much, everyone. Once again, if you guys need more information about this, go ahead and contact Raquel from Lighthouse Consulting. And see you guys
Mwah.
in the next one.
Bye.